Okay, guys, hope you are well. Little bit of messing around today because they're playing music and banging around outside. So I've had to put some background music on so I don't get copyright striked. And yeah, just ask questions as we go. I need to warm up. I've also got the garage door down, so I'm just going to try and see if I can fix the lighting a bit, see if we can make that a little bit better for you guys. So I apologise, it's not a perfect situation today. But shout if you can't hear me very well, or if something doesn't look right. Let me know. It's going to be a bit dramatic, the lighting. Yeah, it's not the best, but let's warm up, get some questions going, and we'll go from there. So just ask away, normal deal. I'm going to do I've done 0 handstands today. Just drop the kids off at school, that's it. Let's warm up. So no plans for today's session. Last time I think I done handstand push ups, and today I'm just going to warm up, take questions, stay on for about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on who's about, and we'll go from there. Now, I did train handstand push ups yesterday. I'm due for planche today, but I'll do that later on. I'm not going to do that now. Need a bit more coffee before that. So, any questions, guys? I'm sweating already, look. What are you guys training? Are you struggling with anything in particular? You have to excuse the coffee. So let's just warm up basics. So if you're doing like I am, having a bit of a play, doing a bit of everything, obviously we need a bit of scapular strength, we need a bit of bent arm strength, we need a bit of straight arm strength, we need a bit of balance, a bit of mobility. So just do like a general mix. Stuff I like to do for that is Cossack squats. Really good to open the hips up nice and fast. So just making sure that when you do the Cossack squat, the straight legs stay straight, and then the bent leg is like doing a standard squat. Try to keep the torso as upright as possible. So I'm coming down to that position, torso's upright, shoulders behind this knee, and I just sink as deep as I can over to the other side. Now, if it's first thing in the morning like it is for me, this is going to feel a bit tight, but the cool thing with the Cossack is that you can really floss into the hips, and they open up pretty quick. You can play with the ranges. If you want to get more into the hamstring, I'd leave that secondary. So I first come down with the squat as deep as you can. Now go into the hamstring by rotating the foot up and coming down like this, and I can lean towards that side. So now I'm dumping into the hamstring. But the risk is that when you go into this, that you do this straight away. So then it dumps into the hamstring too much. So delay that, keep that foot down for as long as possible before you go into the hamstring. But a really good hip opener. Do you know a combo that works flexibility, strength, and balance? Yeah, well, something like my favorite would be to do an entry to handstand. So using hips, so doing like a straddle good morning. So again, a fantastic warm up and just general prep, and something that increases your flexibility range, with the goal trying to get closer and closer to the floor. Let me just turn the camera. That light's not good, is it? It's giving me a massive shadow. Let's just see if I can put it up. So noisy outside today. Is that better? Less shadow? No, still shadow, but open. So driving the hip backwards, trying to get as close to the floor as possible until you can get head to the floor. And obviously you can just slightly progress that. Now when you go in that direction, taking the hips backwards, all the weight, and then transferring the weight forwards into the hands, into the upper back and shoulders. Now when you get to this position, you've got some options in terms of where you go. So you could go into a bent arm movement. So I could come to here, bend the arms, and now I can press up. Now I've got my balance, back down, come back out again. or you could go into a pike push-up. So if you don't have the control to go up, you could go back out again for a pike push-up. So then you get bent arm press, you get flexibility, you get a bit of balance depending on what you have available. You could kick up to the wall, like here, do it there, then go into the wall, do a wall pull, and then come back down, do that again. If you could do more straight arm strength, we can drive the hip backwards, come forwards round the upper back, and do like a planche type press. And then again, go up to handstand. So that would be a fun one to do. I do variations of that in my handstand classes because you can go into like a frog or a crow instead of the pike push up or the planche, depending on how strong you are in that position. So that one's a really good one. I'm a big fan of that. Oh, I'm out of breath. Okay, struggling with tuck planche, any tips? Yeah, main thing is just enough repetitions and time and attention in the protracted position. So making yourself very, very strong in a rounded upper back. So hanging out here, making sure you've got good range of motion in protraction. So working that retraction up to protraction, making sure that you have slightly externally rotated hands, a little bit wider for most people than shoulders, works the best. And then creating a really tight tuck position if you're going to work directly into the tuck planche. You could do planche leans, which again is just conditioning that upper back and shoulders, that planche position, making sure the arms are straight, holding that position, trying to get the hips as in line as you can with the toes and shoulders, but really promoting that forward lean and rounded upper back position. And then if you're going to go into the tuck planche itself, again, a really, really tight ball. The more your legs are sticking out behind you, the harder it is going to be to lift the toes off the floor. So you can just bring knee to chest up in that position. So I'm pushing up and forwards through the rounded upper back, and then try and get as close into the chest with the knees, so then you can lift up into that position. You can keep a toe assist, you can use band assist, but normally it's lack of conditioning of the scapula, lack of ball, so being able to get into the tightest ball position and having your legs behind you and thinking, oh, I can't lift my legs, but it's because they're actually way too heavy because they're too far behind you. So being able to get into that tight ball really helps. Toe assist as long as needed, but just trying to get all the energy into that upper back and shoulders. P-bars can help. Just watch the higher P-bars because you'll tend to be sagging down in the position where on the floor it brings you up into a tight ball. So if you are going to use higher P-bars, it's a pretty good idea to come off a step or something. So just have your foot up on a step so you can push yourself into the position. How do you train to not start rotating when you shift weight in a one-arm handstand? I'm still working on fingertip shifts and balancing at the moment. It's more just time and attention. You can try and work out what's happening, you know, that fight between the pecs and the lats and like understand the anatomy of it while you're rotating, or you can just spend lots and lots of time on fingertip positions and making the hand as light as possible before you go to fingertips. And it is literally just time. So the longer you spend on your fingers, the longer you spend finessing the position and making sure that your elbow is staying in. So when you do a one-arm handstand, your elbow really needs to stay in towards this midline here. Shoulder needs to stay in. And then when you go up to fingertips, this is happening. If this is happening, you're already buckling. So if my elbow goes out to the side, so try to keep that in all the time. Making sure that when you go to fingertips that you go to elbow like this and the shoulders stay more in line. But it's more or less just time with fingertips. And then making sure that your straddle does this and not this. So you don't want this top leg to lift to start to get over the top because it will rotate you and spin you out of position. Making sure you're not reaching. So it is literally just hours and hours and hours. See my right elbow coming in. I'm looking down towards the right hand. Come up onto fingertips. There. It's a good test first thing in the morning. Oh no, can't get it. So there, fingertip. Yeah, that's not great first thing. But yeah, elbow in, shoulder there, and making sure that you're like this and come into this position. But making sure the hand that you're lifting is there's no weight in it. Let me just see if I can get a better one for you. And I'll try and show that weight shift in the fingers, because everyone goes to their max straight away and then struggles at their max, but that's like hanging out at your 1 rep max in the deadlift every session. So you wouldn't do that. You'd do your 5 rep max, your 10 rep max and stuff like that. So get enough time. Check, you can see because of Rosie in here. So trying to decrease as much weight out of that left hand now, as much weight out of that left hand now, as much weight out of that left hand now. So when you go, oh, I'm really wobbly today, to lift the hand, there's still no weight in that. So no weight when you're in this position, no weight in fingertips, no weight in fingertip, and then go from there. I recently put a video up like 2 days ago, going through canes, the progressions to one-arm handstand on there. Watch that video, I go through a little bit more detail in there, but it is just lots and lots of reps and sets. Okay, where are we? Awesome that you're streaming now at 7 p.m. here instead of 2 a.m. Unfortunately, I don't really have questions at the moment. Getting over being sick, haven't practiced in quite a while. Yeah, just obviously just when you have been sick, just go get back into it really slowly, drop back on your progressions. Like, it's a really good example of knowing your progression lines towards your skills and be able to move up and down that. You're having a good day, training's going really well, you can jump up through the progressions on that particular day. If you're having an off day, like I was up with my little boy last night quite a bit, so I didn't get that much sleep. So today I'm probably not going to be able to progress as much as I wanted to in my sessions. So I might have to drop back a little bit. So the same as if you've had time off, if you had an injury, knowing all the progressions and the little increments to make, the same as what you do with weight training, you'd know to drop down 1 kilo or jump up 1 kilo, that type of thing is much easier with weights. With calisthenic skills, it's much harder. But yes, the intention is to come on Friday mornings. This is the plan, around 9, 10 a.m. Every week, and create a little bit of consistency with it. I know it doesn't always suit everyone around the world, but yeah, my goal is to get back into more lives, and I will be doing more like Q&As where I collect questions during the week, cover things, critique videos online so you can all learn from each other as well. But it's tricky time-wise, that's the only thing. So I'll do my best. Any drills for Stalder hold? Is that Stalder hold you mean? And Stalder press. Yeah, so mainly just planche, become strong in your planche. So you want to have a low hip, strong press handstand if you want to do anything Stalder pressy. Obviously, there's a flexibility demand to hold a straddle L-sit on the floor. So you need a certain amount of seated straddle flexibility, but you also just need to have been able to press with your hands elevated, because that's going to take you closer and closer to the Stalder press. So you need a press handstand, obviously, and then to do that, you just start lowering the feet and raising the hands. That's probably the most simplest way to get that Stalder press like movement before you're 100% ready to do it. So as soon as you can press like this, and I can press there comfortably, if I do exactly the same thing here, now my hips lower. Look, if I'm in the Stalder press, my hips lay lower and I have to get through to that position, which is that position. So making sure that you can press from here and come up. And if you can't, just do on some weight plates. So, stick some of these down on the floor. It might be a tiny weight plate or a tiny, even a mat, not one of these gym mats, different. So raise the hands up by that much. And now you press from there. Practice your eccentrics down to your straddle L-sit. And then full eccentrics from a handstand all the way down to straddle L at the height that you need to create control. So same as you did when you learned to press handstand, we don't want to have any big gaps. We want to make sure that you're always filling your range of motion. If there's any parts where you're dropping, you need to work out a way of making the movement easier so you can start to fill that gap with quality time under tension. So there's a little bit going on the Stalder press. It's relatively simple if you have a press handstand. But again, I've got multiple videos on that. And it does depend if you're super flexible or if you're super strong, or where you sit on that scale, depending on what drills are good for you. Mainly it's changing the arm position, so you can cheat a little bit and bend the arms if you're a bit stronger. You can bend the legs if you're a little bit tighter, a little bit stronger. But if you're more flexible, then you want to keep things a bit more stacked and be a bit stricter with positions because you won't have as much room to play with the strength aspects, but you can work on a lower clearance. You might even be able to do like eccentrics with your hands on the floor straight away. So it's a cool one, but does take a bit of time and a bit of exploration depending on your individual setup. Awesome, thank you. Hey, how are you? When I do straddle press eccentric, I find that my head keeps pressing into the wall really hard. How do I fix that? So understanding how to articulate the spine down without the hip coming too far in this direction. Because if we get too planchy with the hip, the head's always going to go forwards on our eccentric. So what we're talking about here is, have I got a wall I can show you? You're all plugged in at the moment, so I need to be a little bit careful. Can't move that. Okay, let's just see. Okay, you'll be able to see it's not perfect lighting at the moment. So if we look at it, even though we're talking about the eccentric, which is rolling down the wall, so we're talking about doing this drill when we're here, put the butt against the wall, low back against the wall, mid back, upper back, and then head is being pushed into the wall. All that means is we're shifting too much hips and legs back this way, and it's sending the head forwards like a planche. So then your head goes forwards to counterbalance, which is fine if we're freestanding. And I do that. When I get down to this position, if I do this and send my head forwards because the torso is becoming flatter, it's not really an issue. It just means that it's going to be a lot harder from a strength point of view because I've made it very planchy. The hips will come down, the head and shoulders will come forwards. In a press handstand, ideally, you want to try and keep the hips up for as long as possible, which allows you to stack the head for longer or keep everything stacked for longer. So then when you bring the legs down, the head and shoulders don't need to go so far forwards. So it's more trying to work out how you can get your feet to the floor in this position and be here instead of being there with the legs. So if I go a little bit closer to the wall now with my hands, that's going to stop me going so far forwards. But it means that I have to try and get my feet down like this to the wall. If the feet come here, the head's going to go into the wall. So it really is that pathway on the way down. But now you can send me lots of videos. We can look at that. And we can play with your hand distance away from the wall and look at how your spine comes down, because your spine comes down really nicely. So it's probably just a habit of that last little bit where the hip drops and the head goes forwards. You can play with the concentric. So another way of doing that, this is a fun one for everyone, a good test. So we want to try and work out how can we get our upper back onto the wall by external rotating the hands. You could go a little bit froggy with the legs. So I'm externally rotating the hands there, trying to get my back against the wall, not my head. So my upper back's there now. Straighten and then see if I can push up. So there's the point where the head would normally go into the wall, but I put my upper back against it, didn't touch with the head. So you can play around with that little concentric part. That works really nice as well. Hope that helps. But you can obviously send me videos and we can go through those. Could you give me a tip to go from tuck to advanced tuck planche? Yeah, this is another position where a lot of people get really caught in the position because there's such a big strength difference between a tuck planche and a advanced tuck. So what we're talking about is having, it's easier if I show you, what do I have? It's easier to show you on a bar in a front lever because I can hold more of a conversation for longer. I'll show you the planche as well, but it's easier. Let's see if I can get this bar out without taking out my laptop and all the wires. Okay, so if we think about advanced tuck position, both in back lever, front lever, and planche, they're all exactly the same. So our tuck position is a tight ball. Our knees are full of arms. So in this like position, so here, so the knees are through. That's seen as your tuck planche or your tuck front lever. So planche, it would be there. So exactly the same position. Now the advanced tuck is seen when you have a flat back and your knees on top of your hips. So what that means is that you're going to go all the way from this position, that tight tuck, to this position there.
But you can see the range of motion that I just went in. I went from there all the way to there. So a big thing to think about is your progression from there is next is there. And then it's there, then it's there. So you see what I'm doing? I'm just moving slowly, the angle, keeping the heels at the butt, but I'm slowly moving the knees away from the chest. So until I get to there. But we might be looking at like 6 months to get from that real tight tuck position to advanced tuck. So you can't just go from this position and go like that, because you're just gonna fall down. Because you've suddenly taken your legs that were tucked underneath the base, underneath your hands, out into the open space, and you're just gonna fall down again. So that difference is massive. But if you go from here to there, which isn't all the way to advanced tuck, it's obviously a lot shorter gap, and it can just go in smaller increments. You could also play with using a band assist to get you into the position to get you comfortable with it, because you are also, when you're in a tuck planche, you get contact between your legs and your arms, so that friction helps you. And also just the hip flexors are really locked on, so being able to open the hip flexors, your body doesn't like to do it. So practicing the opening position by making it slightly easier, both in things like front lever, even though it's a different movement in terms of the strength aspect, but understanding the position helps. The skin the cat's really good, so going full range skin the cat, starting to open the knees up, and also the banded variations of the planche, because that allows you to play with harder progressions, even if you're not 100% ready to do it without. This is actually a drill I've been working on also, straddle press eccentric with the wall. Yeah, it's like the number one for press handstand. It's the number one way to train the pathway and get good time under tension with no gaps, because you can just use the wall as much as you need to slowly roll down. Paul, I used your tip about bending the legs slightly on the straddle press eccentric with wall, and I managed to get my feet to the floor and back up. Yeah, perfect. So then you can just start to play with that, either lengthening, so trying to lengthen the leg when you get all the way down to the floor, just try and get your toe to touch the floor, and then bring it back up and bend it as much as it needs to. Or you can just do more repetitions, and then over time you can slowly straighten everything out, but also make sure that you're constantly increasing your freestanding balance through your range of motion, whatever you have. And a good way to do that is to combine your press, partial press range of motion. So doing the toes up on a box and going up to your handstand, whatever, it could be on the bed or something, lifting your feet up on a bench, and as high as you need to go while you're doing your eccentric. So then you're getting your eccentric press handstand, and you're also getting your concentric work. It might not be full range, but you're getting the full range on the eccentric. So then it all starts to come together. Can your dog do a handstand? He was almost every video, so he should have learned it. Yeah, it's a she, and no, she can't do a handstand because she's normally looking like that. But she's very used to me doing handstands. Look, she's got no, and that's it. That's all I'm going to get. I'll do something cool like a one-arm handstand, and yeah, she's not even interested. But you'll find if you do have animals and kids and stuff, when you first start handstanding, they're very interested. So it can be a challenge. Okay. Should you spend time only focusing on learning one handstand skill at a time? If not, should time spent equal between skills or one more than the other? Are you training both one arms and press? So what I would do is I'd have I'd recommend. Now the challenge is, because one of my pet hates is when like a coach says you must do all of these skills, even if you're not interested in those skills. I'm not a big fan of that. I think you should have your journey and pick the skills that you want to work on. However, I'd highly recommend to get a really all-round calisthenics, handstand calisthenics. I know calisthenics is a very open word that covers so many different skills, but if you focus on balance, make sure your handstand balance is amazing, and combine that with mobility. So handstand and balance is something that needs to be done all the time. Ideally, every day you'll do something to do with mobility, you'll do something to do with balance, and that will just slowly improve. So that could be learning your first 2-arm handstand all the way to a 1-arm handstand if you want to take it that far, but just to slowly increase your hold time and window of balance in a handstand. So I'd highly recommend you do that. And like I say, add the flexibility to that. So you just spend a lot of time lengthening the hamstrings, opening the straddle position up. So you've got options when you go into skills and then more balance work. Now, on top of that, I'd highly recommend to do 2 different strength sessions, and normally do, my favorite is just bent arm and straight arm, the traditional gymnastic strength way of training. So you would do something like handstand push-ups, chin-ups, bent arm planche, something that's got bent arms. And then you do, on another day, you do something that does straight arms, which is normally press handstand, planche, skin the cat, levers. To keep it as basic as possible, but then you have 3 workouts. So you have your handstand balance and your mobility, you have your bent arm strength and your straight arm strength. That's the way gymnastic type strength has been done for years and years and years, and seems to work best for people. And it's really nice because you can work specific skills. So you can go, I'm going to do press handstand and planche. So there's my straight arm skills that I want to work, and you can do your bent arm skills like your handstand push-ups. Now, if you're working handstand push-ups and you're working press at any level, so it could be dips, push-ups, pike push-ups, that type of thing for handstand push-ups if you're newer to it, and it could be for the straight arm strength like planche leans eccentric press handstand work up against the wall, something like that. It obviously depends on your level, but I would be doing at least that on top of your balance. So those 3 things at the same time. Now, it all depends then how many different skills, obviously with your training history and the amount of time you have, that you then attack. So, to be able to do balance, mobility, press, planche, lever, muscle ups, 1-arm chins, handstand push-ups, 90-degree handstand push-ups, like you need 2 or 3 hours a day to train, and a lifestyle that fits with that. Most people don't have that. So the simpler way to go is to go 1 or 2 easier exercises for bent arm, 1 or 2 easier exercises for straight arm, and then your handstand balance and mobility. So you're working multiple things, but it's staying very, very simplistic. So that's why I'd recommend most people, but obviously it needs to be looked at from an individual's point of view, how much time you have, what's your training history, what volume can you take, do you have the basics? Like, can you do chin-ups, dips, push-ups, planche leans, protraction, active, passive hangs? Like, you need to make sure that you've got those basic things ticked off. If you don't, I'll do that. So that's like a long answer, but I think someone like that makes way quicker progress. They find it more interesting than someone that just does 1 skill. Because if you just pick 1 skill, it's really hard to keep interested in that. And then you don't have this big window of development that helps you along the way if you just focus on 1 thing. However, if you've got like a very strong yoga practice, or you're into CrossFit or something like that that's taken up lots and lots of time, and you just want to add in handstands, then obviously 1 skill works really well. So that's a really long answer just to get that. But I think that's a really important thing to get right and to fit. If you try and do a program that's for the wrong person, it just doesn't work. Hey mate, love the videos, but what is the red PVC looking pull-up bar you always use? Is it homemade? No, you mean this one? This is it's called a pull-up mate. They're from I don't even know if they make them anymore. I think they're from a European company. There might be someone in the UK making one very similar to it, like a different brand, but that one's called a pull-up mate. And it basically just has these extensions that go on. It's very wobbly, but to have at home, it's fantastic because I can just pull it out and put it outside and do like muscle ups and stuff at height, where I can't do that with my squat rack. I love my squat rack that's behind me this way. In terms of being sturdy in that, it's fantastic. It is portable. It means that I can move it around, but because of the height of my garage, I can't take it outside. and it then limits me height-wise. So if I want to do anything above the bar, even like a high chest to bar pull-up or chin-up, I can't do it in the garage because I'll hit my head against the ceiling. So, and I can't carry it outside. So having something like this that I can carry inside, I can take in the lounge and do like front levers and stuff on the lower bar. I can take outside and make it higher. I can flip it over and do loads of different drills on it. It's really, really good. I paid $50 off Facebook for it, like Facebook Marketplace. So yeah, something like that is fantastic. There is a few different companies that make them. They're not super stable. So I wouldn't recommend like dynamic muscle ups on them and stuff like that. But if you keep super strict, I've got a video where I've done ring muscle ups, ring forward rolls on it, and it's fine. But you just can't be crazy on it because it will flip over. I think it would flip over. I haven't flipped it, but it's not super stable. But I'd highly recommend that, like, search Gumtree, whatever you have in your country for picking up secondhand stuff. Like, I'm sure Facebook Marketplace is everywhere. We have Gumtree in Australia. But I've picked up a lot of the calisthenics bars and stuff because it's one of those things that people buy and never use for next to nothing. You can even sometimes find bars and stuff at the side of the road and things. So you don't need to spend lots of money to get it. I'm lucky that I get Flex Fitness, a local company in Australia, look after me for equipment. But if you don't have to buy stuff, you can definitely get stuff really cheap or make things as well. Do you do any flexibility stretching before beginning the session? Also, thanks for the handstand advice for a couple of weeks ago. It totally makes a lot of difference. Okay, fantastic. Really glad that you're feeling the difference with the handstand practice. Flexibility wise, I don't need to because of the level that I've got to and how long I've been doing this. I train every day. I struggled to touch my toes when I first started at 37. I'm now at 48. I'll be 49 this year. So I was like this when I started at 37. I could barely touch my toes in that position. Now cold. Look, I've not really done any type of hamstring warm up today. And I'm here back in there like it. So I've got good flexibility now that I maintain. So every day I'll do a little bit. I'll visit those positions. And then I do harder stretching probably 2 or 3 times a week. But it's not before every session. Most of my strength sessions have minimal stretching. However, I will sit in straddle pancake. So a lot of the time between my sets, I'm on my computer giving feedback to clients or getting back to people with messages and things. So I'll sit on my phone or my laptop in a seated straddle, and I'll do that every day. So I'm probably spending about an hour at least sitting in straddle. So I'd highly recommend you start to do that where you're visiting positions all the time, because that makes a massive difference with flexibility work. So like you could be here in this position and work on flexibility and be working on a laptop that's on a table or something. You could sit in this position and play Xbox, and then slowly get closer and closer to the floor. So doing things like that, flexibility wise, is probably the quickest way to make a massive difference, especially when you're a little bit older. And you don't get so sore from stretching then. My shoulders hurt when I do crow pose into handstand. How do I fix the pain when I do it? It probably means that you're dumping into your shoulders in some way. So I would just try and fill some gaps. So you want to make sure that you've got strong protraction. You've got good scapular mobility, so you can move your between protraction and retraction comfortably. You can hang for 60 plus seconds. You can do active and passive hangs, so moving again through scapular elevation and depression, and then making sure that your rotation, your external rotation, is fine. So, playing with like Cuban rotations, grab a stick, see if you can do that movement pain-free. That type of thing is fantastic. Just standard external rotation with a dumbbell or anything. It doesn't have to be. I can do it with a water bottle. I can just go through external rotation and make sure that feels okay. If it doesn't, we want to increase that range of motion, and we want to build more strength capacity there. But it also could be that your technique in that movement is not correct and you're dumping. So you're like sagging through your shoulder blades when you try and push. So normally if I gave you a barbell or dumbbell, you would set yourself into a really strong position and you would push from there, and it would look like it's a strong, good position. You wouldn't do this and push like this. This is hurting my traps and my shoulders now when I try and push up because I've collapsed in my shoulder blades. This is where I need to push from, not this. Okay, so it's trying to work out when you get a position that's hurting you. Is it just because you're collapsing and going into a bad position? Is it because your balance isn't good enough for the movement? So you then end up in a funky position because of that. So it's trying to work out where your gaps are. She'd given up before trying. Oh, you mean with the dog? Yeah, she's now actually snoring. I don't know if you can hear her. I've got the music on in the background. Okay, how can I get over the fear of doing a back to wall kick up hold? Back to wall kick. Okay, so if you're new to handstands, you just want to get to the point where you're kicking up to the wall. This is really common. I often have a lot of people come into class and then they'll look like this when they kick up. So here. So basically what's happening, they're keeping all their weight in their hips and their legs, and they're kicking up and down here. Where what we need to do is understand where the wall is and create a very, very strong base. So we'll place the hands on the floor, shoulders on top of the hands, have a fixed focal point. So sometimes put something down on the floor that you can look at that's between your index fingers. Make it so that's very strong. We don't want to be like this and now all the weight's in the hips. I want all the weights on top of the hands. And then the goal is just to try and get one leg closer to the wall. Now, every time you kick up, maintain that shoulder position, check it's still on top of the hands, check the focal points there, and just be able to touch the wall. Once you can touch the wall consistently, touch the wall higher. And then keep going higher and higher until eventually you'll be able to get all the way up. But that could take 2 months, 3 months, 2 hours, 1 hour, 2 minutes. Like it all depends on your level and your confidence. If you give it enough time that you need, you'll get up. But it's just sticking with it and slowly building that confidence. Oh, excuse me. Paul, so I think it's how can I increase my success rate in kick-ups? So if you're talking about kick-ups to a freestanding hold, you need a bigger balance window. So most people's balance window is tiny. So when they kick up to handstand, their balance window is like this big. So they try and get up, and if they go beyond it, they're going to fall over to overbalance. If they go under it, they're going to go down. So they'll look like this, and they'll do something different every time. And also, even if they get there, they're falling out of position because what they're trying to catch into is so tiny that they can't maintain it. And plus that variability of different hand position, different whips, different shoulder position, different energy going sideways, going up, swapping legs, bending the arms, different focal point, whipping the head. There's so many variables. So we need to make the variables as minimal as possible. So exactly the same hand position, exactly the same focal point, exactly the same position of the shoulders. So make sure those are all consistent. And now when I kick up, the only variability or the variable thing is the kick up. What are my legs and hips doing when I kick? That's the only change. So that's going to then be easier to get consistency. Now, once you've got that, you also need to increase your balance window. So instead of being tiny, it's bigger. And the best way to do that is the back to wall and the chest to wall drills. So the heel pull, so this way around, getting very good at pulling from the wall, not kicking from the wall, pulling using the fingers, and then reaching up tall with the toes, and go back for reps. Do the same this way around for the toe pull. Shoulders are going to come off the wall. So like so, push up, and then go back again. That's the toe pull. That's going to increase underbalance control. Now that's a lot to take in, but somewhere there, you need to slowly work on your level so you can increase that balance window, create the consistency of the kick up. Again, I've got lots of videos on it. If you just search my name and balance, you'll get lots of that in more detail, showing all those drills and exercises. Well, I'm out of breath. Need more coffee. Okay, we're at 40 minutes. I plan 60 minutes max. Okay. You got me so excited to get back to working on handstands. Should get back to it this weekend. Awesome. Yeah, just go on your level. Just if you've gone backwards, don't worry about it. It's really good to go back. The cool thing about being a coach, and I'd highly recommend if you're not a coach, show other people exercises, get other people interested in it, and then demonstrate the easier progressions. Because when you're coaching, like today, when I was just doing the heel pulls, the toe pulls, the exercises that I can do quite easily, or I can do the skill quite easily, I'm always going back and revisiting to show people, which is refining those, which then carries over to easier skills, because you're just doing all the stuff that you just would normally leave behind. So that's really cool to do that. So I'd highly recommend that you teach if you can, and just show other people how to do these skills. Where are you in Australia? I'm in Brizzy. Do you run any courses or workshops? I'm in Perth, so that's not too helpful if you're in Brizzy, but not so much now. Courses and workshops just take so much time to organize. And I saw with the online coaching and my app and YouTube and stuff, that just takes up all my time. However, whenever I travel, I will normally offer workshops and do it that way. Courses, not so much, because I do online coaching. So I have a online coaching where you can sign up, and it's a monthly ongoing payment that can be cancelled at any time. But you just send me videos. I design you a program from an assessment, and then I critique your videos. You can send as many videos as you like, and I just constantly critique them, and then we update the program as needed, and just work through your skills you're working towards. So I do that as an online coaching, which is like a bit more expensive way of doing it. And then I have my app. And with those, that keeps me really occupied. I enjoy doing workshops. I do them occasionally in Perth when a gym contacts me. And I will be doing them in the UK when I go there in August. I still actually need to sort out a location. So if anyone's in the UK, I doubt they are at 10 a.m. on in Perth time. But yeah, if anyone's watching this in the UK and they have a gym or know a gym that would be interested in hosting a workshop, actually, if you're anywhere and you want to, if you are interested in doing workshops, let me know, and I will look at that. But I don't have anything planned for around Australia at the moment. And one of the issues in Perth with workshops is now there's so many people that are really good at teaching handstands in Perth, which is fantastic. There's some really good calisthenics gyms now, and like movement gyms, and the level now, the standard in Perth is so high. I really don't need to teach that many workshops there, because there's just so many coaches offering really good classes on a weekly basis. I do teach a weekly class in Perth if you're ever in Perth, and I do offer a few one-on-one sessions, but they're few and far between. But if someone comes and travels here, sometimes I'll do a one-on-one, and I've got 3 or 4 in-person clients. But there's actually I know a few hand balancers that used to come to Perth to teach workshops, that travel around teaching hand balancing, and now they don't come to Perth to teach, because there's the local coaches are so good. So which is a good thing. It used to be a case that you couldn't find anyone in your city that would be teaching or doing handstands, and now there's more and more people, so it's fantastic. Okay, sitting in straddle now, watching. Yeah, perfect. That's what we want to be doing. I found out that when I am not conscious about the balance, I hold the handstand longer. But once I focus on the balance, I lose it. Yeah, that's like anything. It's like analysis by paralysis. You overthink something, and you'll just get too confused. There's too many things to think about, too many moving parts. Where if your body just goes into survival, and that's where we want to get to the point where everything is subconscious. Like if someone bumps into you when you're on your feet, you rebalance and move around. You don't think, oh shit, I'm going to fall over. I need to bend my knee. I need to tighten my abs. I need to do XXX. You just do it. And that's what we want to get to with the handstand. And that's why it's so important to make the balance super strong. So then when you're doing press handstand drills, you don't need to focus on the balance, because that's taken care of. You can just focus on the drill that you're doing. So it always sort of ends up in layers. So yes, like 100% can happen. So what I'm a big fan of doing with something like Handstand Balance is if you do some wall drills where you're really focusing, say you do heel pulls and toe pulls and you're really focusing on technique and what you're actually doing, and then superset that or follow it with some freestanding handstand attempts where you just ride it and just put some music on and just do a few kick-ups and try and catch the balance and don't overthink it. Where the drills have given you that ability to do it because you've just been thinking about the drill part, which you can break apart and focus on just pulling from the wall using the right body parts. That's a good way of doing it and sort of have a balance of thinking about something and then not thinking about it. What type of calisthenics athlete would you consider yourself? And I appreciate your advice. I say I do handstands and calisthenics. But it's also really confusing. It depends who you're talking to, because it's really hard to put a label on it. It's the same as someone's a personal trainer or a fitness coach or any of those things is really challenging to understand what someone's talking about. Unless, even if someone says I do CrossFit, people have all these ideas in their head what CrossFit is, same as if you're a yoga teacher, but there's hundreds of different types. So it's really hard to do it. What I would do is I change how I say it, depending on who I'm talking to. And then a good way of doing it is I just tell people to look at my Instagram and go, that's what I teach. That's what I practice. That's what I enjoy doing. It's a lot easier to show someone visually than it is to put it into words. What's the hardest handstand, bent arm, straight arm press variation? Like probably a one arm press to handstand, like a Stalder, a single arm Stalder press would be the hardest thing potentially. It depends. Like some things are stupidly hard strength wise and some things are stupidly hard balance wise. Interestingly, a lot of the good things that the circus performers will do, the hard stuff doesn't get the big round of applause, but the slightly easier stuff, if you do a croc, it was actually, who was it who told me? Mikhail, he's a really good hand balancer who performs and stuff. And I think he said that, I think he's got like a presentation he does on YouTube about handstands. And he said, interestingly, like the single arm croc that he does normally gets, like you lower down from handstand into this position. And that gets the biggest round of applause, even though I'm not holding a conversation, I'm not warmed up and I just done the croc. That gets a bigger round of applause than like a one arm press to handstand. So the cool thing is you can do some really cool skills that actually aren't too hard compared to some of the other crazy ones. But yeah, it all depends on whether you look at balance on strength. There's so many different variations, but normally something balancing on one arm is going to be really, really hard, and something where you come up from the floor at a low position is going to be hard. Like a dead press, handstand push-ups for straight body would be seen as really hard. Full planche to handstand again would be really, really hard. I like skills where people can do multiple different things. So the same person can do full planche, but can also do handstand push-ups, clean one-arm handstands, clean press handstands, where you don't normally get that. You get people that are amazing at handstand push-ups or planches, and then you get people that are amazing at one-arm handstand, but not someone who can do all of those things. Like me, I'm pretty good at all the pushing stuff, so planches, presses, handstand push-ups, handstands themselves, but not amazing on a bar. I can get a few bar muscle-ups. I can get I've got one arm chin once in my life. I was doing eccentrics pretty fine. I've lost my eccentric one arm chins now. I can do like one rep and then my bicep will be sore for like 2 weeks. So my pulling isn't that strong compared to my pushing. I lost where I was. Okay, when doing heel pull drill, when pushing through the fingers, the key movement is getting the hips to stack on top of the base, correct? Yes, but you want the feet to come with you. So I don't think so much about the hips. I think more about the connection between the hand and the feet, and the hips will come along for the ride. what we don't want to do with any type of movement is we don't want the hip to always lead the way, because that's just going to make you top heavy or heavy back down towards underbalance. So when we're pulling away from the wall, what I'm really thinking about is getting tall. So when you do the wall drills, especially the heel pulls, so this one we're pulling from the wall like so. If we do this and put your face against the wall, and then I'm going to pull from the wall using my toes, that makes sense to me. And when I pull away, I actually get taller. If I don't get taller and my hips just do the work, see my hips move there, my head still stays on the wall. So what I need to do is turn my glutes and my abs on enough to create one segment, make the body nice and tall, and then as I pull away, I keep the body as one. But I'm thinking about my head coming off the wall, and I'm thinking about my toes pushed into the floor and lengthening. I'm not thinking about the hips. So exactly the same as when I'm doing the heel pull there. As I push through the fingers and reach tall, I'm just getting taller with the toes. I'm not focusing on the hip, because that can tend to overpower. However, thinking about something is different for everyone. So, when you think about hips, it might relate in the body creating one piece and pull from the wall really nicely. When I think about hips, I buckle. So it's trying to work out what you need to think of to create the correct movement for you. Your body stays as one segment really nicely when you pull on and off the wall. So I don't think you have to overthink about that, because you don't really break too much of the hips. But we do need to focus on trying to keep your shoulders to be dominant in the movement all the time. Greetings from Germany. What time is it in Germany? Surely it's like midnight, isn't it? My 5-year-old daughter is doing lots of headstands now. What would you suggest for her next progression? Wall handstands or crow pose? Look, at 5 years old, it just needs to be about play. And ideally, I would go to gymnastics or somewhere where they're in a controlled environment, but they're playing and building some strength and understanding. But yeah, like forward rolls, walking up and down the wall in a handstand position, or putting the feet up on something, that type of thing. So just getting awareness of being on the hands, stepping onto the wall or a bench, like this type of thing. So these are cool games, these type of things, and they start to encourage the person, not just kids, to put more and more weight into the hands and the shoulders and stuff. You just don't want to make it too drill orientated for kids. That needs to just be fun, and they'll just develop at a crazy rate. Turn it into games, but just spending more time weight on the hands and less time weight on the head and hips and legs, obviously. What is the first press a beginner should learn after they master the handstand? I would say straddle handstand is probably the easiest for most people. Just taking the legs around the outside, frogging the legs a little bit if you need to. So my first press was more like a pike press with bent arms and bent legs. It was really ugly. So you'll have like a hybrid normally for your first press. But something that will look a bit like that would be someone's. So I've purposely bent my arms a little bit, I purposely bent my legs a little bit, and then just went up through the movement. Normally that will be first press for someone. It'll look something like that, but it depends if they have a flexibility background or a strength background. I could do bent arm press type movements really early on because I was playing with them from as a kid type thing. So the bent arm press was actually easier for me than a straight arm press. But I couldn't hold the handstand, so I'd hold for 5 seconds and fall out. Coffee's getting cold. Yep, I'm going to leave that. Okay. What should be learned first, ring or bar muscle up? Whatever your preference is. I prefer teaching a ring muscle up first, using strict false grip, just because that's what I learn. And I think it's a really good way of cleaning up and filling all the gaps. The risk with a bar muscle up is you use too much kip or dynamic. So you can get over the bar quicker. You can probably learn a bar muscle up much faster. But you'll tend to then be stuck in that kip type movement for a long time, where I prefer strict versions. and removing the kip. But it depends. If someone wants a muscle up really fast, bar muscle up is definitely the way to go. In Germany, it's 2:57 a.m. and I actually should be asleep. Yes, you should. 2:57. As long as you can sleep in till like 11 a.m., then you're good. And you can always watch the recording. And if anyone is watching this recording, drop any comments down below and I'll try and get back to them. I did say I was going to do that last time and I haven't, but I will do that today. I'll visit last week's and answer your questions. I need to get more organized. Okay, we're at 55 minutes, so we've got 5 minutes. Any other questions? I think, and if I've missed anything as well, just let me know. Like I said previously, I think I said in the last 2 lives, I do want to get some videos from you guys so I can critique and give you some feedback live. I think that will be very powerful to learn across the board for all of you. Because it's one thing me showing you stuff, but if you get someone who's either slightly behind or slightly in front of you in the progression of the skill that you're working towards, or maybe someone who's got a similar body type as you that's different to me or different background, you'll learn a lot from watching that person do something as compared to me doing it. In one-arm handstand, do you balance more out of the elbow? Yeah, hand, elbow, and shoulder are your like main things you want to be focusing on with a one-arm handstand, not your hips and your legs. It's like a two-arm handstand, though. Most people, when they're learning, their hips and their legs will be all over the place, but it'll be like really refining small movements. It's one of the reasons a block is good, so a handstand block or canes, because you can pull yourself around on that, and you want to bring everything down in terms of balance as close to the floor as possible. So if you're, now my one-arm handstand was terrible earlier. I'm not sure it's going to go any better without specific warm-up, but my elbow is in towards the midline now, so I'm focusing now. I see my elbow and my hand is moving a little bit. So it's a very subtle type movements like this, and then the elbows moving around, very, very small. I'm quite flexible and can do straight arm press easily, but bent arm press is so difficult for me. I don't know why even create a handstand seems so much difficult. Please help. So it'll be a couple of things. So obviously you're going to go towards the direction you're already good at, and it's hard to go in the opposite direction. So I would focus on dips, push-ups, things like that, making sure that you have enough strength in a bent arm position. If you can do push-ups, dips, and things already, then pike push-ups. And also when you go into your crow type movements, put lots of weight into the hands and shoulders before you step the arms on. So if I'm in this position, I bend the arms, lots of weight in my hands already. Now I step on, now my feet are lighter. If I do the opposite, put lots of weight on my arms, now I'm here, now I can't lift my legs. So it's actually a way of like entering the crow frog type position with more emphasis on the shoulders, on the arms, will make it much easier for you then to transition to lift the legs up. But normally just spending more time with bent arm strength will help you. Everyone's like that. They are either better at straight arm or bent arm. I'm better at bent arm, so I learned my straight arm from my bent arm, and even like a lot of my planches, my elbows are slightly bent. What new skills are you working on now? I'm not really working on anything now. Maintenance is the main thing for me from a teaching work point of view. I just want to be really good at presses, handstand push-ups, and balance, muscle ups, stuff like that, and just maintain that, especially at my age, because I'm going to be 49 this year. I'm conscious that learning new skills without losing the skills I already have is going to be really, really challenging. All right, great. I'm only training the flags, hips, leans right now and trying to get to fingertips, thumbs, etc. Thanks for your great content. Yeah, just enjoy that journey. It will take time. Don't rush it. Make sure you're learning other skills at the same time, so you're not just focusing on that, because the repetition can get to you. There's a few times like where I nearly gave up the one arm handstand journey, but you just gotta let it just let the reps and the sets tick over. And eventually you'll have some breakthroughs. You'll have some bits where it feels like you're not progressing, but the time sometimes just feels like you're not going to get anywhere near it. It's exactly the same with press handstand. Press handstand, your feet feel like they're glued to the floor, and it never feels like you're going to lift. It just feels impossible until you actually do it. It's exactly the same with the one-arm handstand. And if you remember back to when you learned a two-arm handstand, that would have been exactly the same as well. So, okay. I have the app. Awesome. You saw my Croda handstand attempt a couple of weeks ago. Is that where you should post videos for critique for YouTube videos? Yeah, you can do. The only thing with that is the Discord is only open for YouTube members and people that have the app. So if I'm going to do the ones for just general population of people who aren't doing my app, then you can post videos to the Discord, but other people can't post to there if they don't have the app. So I wanted to have something that's not a paid thing, just so it allows anyone to send videos in. But then I'm only going to give them some quick critiques live on here. However, if you'd like to do that, because you can have more private type critiques done on the Discord. But if you'd like to see your video on YouTube, just when you post it on Discord, just leave a note to say, feel free to use this one on YouTube. Because the best thing to do is I really need to get people at different levels and different progressions or different body types. And then that'll be the best way to then show lots of different variations of the same thing. Because one person learning Croda handstand who's 100 kilo male, with massive triceps and shoulders is going to be very different than a female yoga practitioner who's never done any strength training. But both of those people can get Croda handstand, but obviously the progressions and the drills are going to look quite different. Daughter is just having fun with it. We'll do some feet on the wall games now. Yeah, perfect. That's the best way to do that. Yes, thanks so much. I'm training planche and front lever also. Helps a lot having over big goals too, for sure. Yeah. Can you make more new follow-along videos for bent arm press, handstand push up? I guess it's been long since new follow-along video came. Yes, 100%. I am doing more. I do need to prioritize the app. So I'm going to be doing way more follow-along videos on the app. They're coming shortly. But on YouTube, I'll be putting some on there as well. So I'm not sure if you're talking about the app or the YouTube, but way more follow-alongs come in. I do have so many tutorials for handstand push-ups already on YouTube. They do get a little bit lost in all the other videos. If you do have the app, all the handstand push-up, Croda handstand videos and they are itemized. So you can just go into the handstand push-up section and you can pick all the videos there and you can search them. It's a lot easier to come across the videos, and you obviously don't have ads in the app version, but there will be some more follow-alongs coming. More than happy to post all of my failures when you set that up. Yeah, perfect. And that's the other thing as well. Most people, when they send videos, no one wants to send the fails. They always want to send, this is my best handstand hold, but they've done 100 kick-ups and this was the one that they caught, which doesn't really help me critique them too much. I need to see the 10 or 20 where they failed, and then I can critique them on those ones to make those ones catch or hold like the one that's the good one. So I need to see the good one plus the not so good ones. Guys, it's now gone an hour. I do need to go and do work now. Not this isn't work. This is fun work. But I plan to be here next Friday, all going well, roughly the same time. I will try and put a post up in between with some a link or something to do the videos and send any questions ahead of time. Keep commenting, thumbs up, subscribe. Really helps the channel big time. So I can spend more and more time helping you guys. And I'll speak to you soon. Where's Rosie? Rosie.